Hey, what's up, beautiful souls? Happy Monday. I hope everybody's day and week is getting off to a wonderful start. And I hope that your day has been filled with presence and a little bit of positivity. A little bit goes a long way. I know it's Monday. At least here in Ohio, it's rainy and nasty outside. Um, so I hope you've been able to find some positivity and laughter in your Monday. Today, I wanted to talk about and reflect upon my years in the Marine Corps. And I did a podcast with a brother of mine, and this lady posed some wonderful questions in the comment sections, and I would like to address and again just reflect on my perception then versus my perception now, and if I would do it differently and whatnot. So, joined the Marine Corps in 2006. I got my final discharge papers in 2018. Um, the last few years of that was inactive service in the IRR. Um, but yeah, I had a two contract career in the Marine Corps, and made some lifelong brothers, and really instilled some great values and leadership traits in me within my service, and for the longest time gave me some really um, some much needed tools to develop a young man and make a man out of him. And I don't mean man in the sense of the ego, but really helped me grow up and realize the value of brotherhood and not independence but interdependence, because you're such a tight knit group in the military that you really do rely on everybody coming together for the greater good and the greater service of the unit or your platoon or your squad or whatever it may be that you're um, speaking of. But um, as far as well, the first question was, could you do it again? That's a tough one. Could I? Yes, I could. I can do anything. I would my heart be there? No. Would I? Given the totality of my perception now and the way I view things and the family that I have established, would I? No. Um, but stick me back in my early man shoes and my young man shoes, and um, stick me back with that mindset and that perception, I would absolutely do it again, because I loved and enjoyed thoroughly. I was the motivated. They used to, I was called the motard, and you military guys know what I'm talking about. But I was the motard. I was the gung ho one, always trying to motivate people. Always trying to uplift people and push people to get the best out of them. And sometimes in the military you use a bit of. Harsh tactics, if you will, to make very politically correct. But it really is for the greater good. And where I was when I enlisted, I had watched in my sophomore history class. I watched the buildings crumble in 9/11, and I watched the news and I followed the news, and I was pumped full of this propaganda of us versus them. They're attacking us on our own soil, yada yada yada. You all know the selling points of the war in the Middle East. And so yeah, I don't think there was hatred, so to speak, in my heart, but really a call to service for my country, and just a call to service, for what I perceive the greater good. Because in a young man's eyes, when you see these things happen, and you hear all the talk behind it for years and years afterwards, and it really does feed that divide and feed that ego, us versus them mentality. And so could I do it again? Yes. Would I? No. The next question was, my spiritual journey or my spiritual awakening changed my perspective. And touching on it in the first question, it absolutely has, and absolutely saddens me. Um, but also in the same sense, I can understand um, these young men being called to service and doing it for the greater good. Because, when you ask people why they join the service, nobody says I joined to kill people. Nobody says that. You have your sociopaths or psychopaths that may feel that way inside because they have this unhealed hate and trauma within themselves. But in my experience with the brotherhood and just the family that is the Marine Corps, and even I keep calling it brotherhood because it's ingrained in me, and I served with mostly men, so um, I call it a brotherhood, but in actuality it's a family, because there's some amazing female Marines that kick a lot of male Marines' ass. And I was really hard on female Marines when I was in, very sexist mentality. And my reality, there were a lot of girls that slacked off too and weren't held to the same standard. But that's neither here nor there. That's issue that I've dealt with and since evolved in my perception of women in the service field. So yes, my perspective has changed in many aspects and many layers of my service, and I can see the war machine for what it is now, and I can see it being a for-profit happening, if you will. Nobody's going to war and taking over countries anymore. We're going to war and creating this money machine that just keeps pumping out the money for all these privately owned companies and corporations to just profit off the backs of young men and women that sacrifice their family, their time, their energy, their youth, their health, their mental health. So yeah, my perception has absolutely changed, and it saddens me that the collective could be so greedy and selfish, and it doesn't surprise me, but it saddens me, and I think we're moving in the right direction. And towards the end of my time in the service, you could tell these younger men coming in they were different, more aware, more conscious, more balanced than joining at the heart of the war, the beginning of the war. A lot of the mentalities of men going in was, and it's ingrained in you, but kill, kill, kill. That we used to do drill and kill, kill. And you make jokes of it, you make light of it, and you bullshit with your buddies and see who can be the most motivated and most badass, if you will. But subconsciously that is programming you to become numb and to downregulate empathetic genes and shut things down. I mean, it's a program that has been perfected, and it's a very powerful thing. And it's I've heard people talk about it as far as being a necessary evil, and I don't think that's the case either. I don't think any evil is necessary. And so I kind of, but then again, ancient times, there was always human sacrifice to the gods and whatever. So, I mean, there are infinite ways to look at anything you choose to put under the microscope. So it's really hard to get concrete with one, but I know in my heart center that I would not do it again, because I see the war machine for what it is. And it's a corporation, and it's a corporation ran off the backs of young men and young women. So the next question: would you be happy for your children to fight or to refuse? That's a very difficult one, because going back to the first two answers, I see it for what it is, and what I would do is I would educate my children with my experience and my knowledge and my wisdom, and give pros and cons, and guide them in the path that I would like to see, but also step back and be happy if they stepped into their path full heart, and fully balanced with knowledge and wisdom of the past, and also with their own truth. So I will always be happy for my children if they are happy. Because what makes me happy isn't necessarily what's going to be making them happy. So would I like to see them fight? No. As a parent, that obviously brings fear. You don't want to lose your child. It's not the natural pecking order, if you will. Would I be happy if they refused? If they were happy, absolutely. If my child's happy and they're following their truth, then it's not for me to say. It's between them and God. So as long as they're happy, I would be happy. Are you any closer to achieving peace without violence? Absolutely. Absolutely. I sit with this quite often, and I sit with it deeply in meditation and in ceremony. Is just the what if cards. What if I was put in a situation where it was kill or be killed? If it was me, just me, I would probably go in peace. But if I had young eyes looking to me to protect them, if I had my fiance looking to me for protection, I would fill those shoes, because that is the role I've taken in their life as a strong man, and as somebody that understands. Oh man, as I speak on it, all these different things come into my head. So it's, if others were depending on me for violence, then I would rather save multiple souls than one. If that's even that sounds horrible, and it makes me feel dirty saying it, because I never wanted, I'm tight with God, but I never want to do God's work of subtracting physical bodies from this plane. But yeah, so I'm definitely at peace without violence, and I often speak against violence, and I'm working with young teens, and as a teenage boy, you glamorize violence with your fellow brother, and it used to be fist fighting and go drink a beer at a party with the guy, and unfortunately nowadays, people are scared, and people jump to the harshest forms of punishment, and guns get involved and knives get involved, and it's just, times are different. So I always try to educate away from violence, and would never condone it, and would never force feed anybody with violent propaganda where I would say that violence is necessary. So I really appreciate the questions, and I really appreciate the questions opening up a space for me to really talk about my military service, because it's something that I haven't thought about really since I've gotten out and have started making this transition to heart center, and back to a balanced divine being, and getting out of the ego. It's been a tough journey for me to not look back, because I was so ego driven as an atheist Marine that went into law enforcement. After that, it was like experiencing the most stringent of programming for the ego, and so it's something I try not to look back at. I'm grateful for my years in service. Some of my best friends that I still talk to this day are from my years in service, and I'm grateful for the brotherhood, and I could do it again because I know there would be young men that would be in need of leadership that could potentially be saved, um, and situations avoided with wisdom and experience. So in that sense, I could do it again as far as going to war, but the pros and cons I would not. So I'm grateful for all of you. If you've tuned in this long, thank you so much. Um, I wish you all the utmost peace and balance in your life and truth. I hope that you're able to garnish the strength to sit with your own truth, because some of the hardest things to see in this reality is your own truth and your own shortcomings, so you can address them and heal them and move through them consciously to evolve for not only yourself but the future generations and your lineage to come. So much love, many blessings, and I will see you very soon.